Champions of the Realm, welcome back. You are listening to the game, which is coming up, Warpath versus Ronin. On your screens right now are the scoreboards. My name is Vox, joined here by Hi-Rez Adanas. Today, on the left-hand side of your scoreboard, it is Warpath Gaming. We have Rude on Grok, Stolzey on Barik, Kyle on Pip, doesupz and on Druxus, and Smidgen on Eevee.
Looking at the other side, we have Ronin. That's going to be Shindu on Barik, Aeido playing Pip, Bioshi on Fernando, sEntryyy playing Kinessa, and Blazen on Grok. So a little bit of an interesting composition coming out here. We've got the Fernando and Kinessa, not typically considered, top-tier picks in Paladins.
It is interesting to see them actually on the same team. We've seen them utilized differently before, Fernando often being run alongside this Cassie pick. Let's see how sEntryyy pairs on this Kinessa pick as we get into the first capture point, and as looks like the flank is coming around, but doesupz eliminated immediately by sEntryyy, spotted out on that flank.
Smidgen, though, very deep actually into the backline right now of Ronin, but it's Blazen taking out Suhhkyle there on the side, and now Smidgen doing her best, trying to stop anything that's happening right now. The point is in control of Ronin right now, and honestly, this is kind of Warpath getting split up. You can see Rude finally coming back in, but right now Ronin has full control of this. Barik's got his barricade out, and now it's just going to be a grouping from Warpath. They're going to wait for their team to come out of the spawn on the side, though. Stolzey actually picked off by sEntryyy.
I'm very impressed to see how sEntryy's been playing at the moment. doesupz is coming around for another flank again, and sEntryyy taking quite a lot of damage, but Shindu knocks out doesupz. sEntryyy is safe just for the moment as they use their transporter to gain some health, get away. The capture point will go initially to the side of Ronin, which is almost shocking considering how strong Warpath Gaming have appeared in previous games, and I'd partially attribute this to the initial flank, which was going to punish this Kinessa pick, was spotted out and immediately eliminated. sEntryyy wasn't actually looking down the range at the capture point at that time. They were waiting for that flank to come around the corner. As soon as Androxus popped up, boom, dead.
And sEntryyy actually got the first blood in this game, and from there was able to get a 4-kill streak, picking off multiple players. And now you can see Ronin, they're going to be surging forward here, actually blocking off all of Warpath from their point right now, and it's actually Rude in the backline here, trying to take out sEntryyy, has him isolated. Smidgen's there as well, but Shindu from the side actually going to help out sEntryyy. Doesn't matter, Kyle picks him off in the end, and now Rude trying to stay alive for now. Actually, Ghost walks forward, manages to just get around the corner, but doesupz takes out Blazen in the meantime.
Bioshi back to the rescue though, has rejoined the rest of the team. A huge chicken comes through, hits at least 3 members in that little cavern area. Stolzey going to place down the barricade turret, firing all the while, and is going to stall this payload out very successfully. And I'm impressed to see how well this stall is working out without a high ground pick right here. I think what's going to happen is that there's going to need to be a regrouping from the side of Ronin. They want to have Bioshi with the team pushing forwards, placing a barricade down, pushing forwards with the Fernando shield, placing another barricade down just to inch this payload forwards to be able to break this defensive blockade which Warpath Gaming have put up.
And just look at Smidgen in this backline once again. All the time, she's just kind of going there. There's the freeze coming out from Ice Block. sEntryyy and Bioshi trying to keep her busy, but she's just going to blink away. And this is just a distraction. doesupz here as well. Reversal might have the damage to kill sEntryyy, but no, it's going to be Aeido actually picking him off in the meantime. But, I mean, the payload hasn't moved at all in the last 30 seconds. It really doesn't seem like Ronin can get control of it. But after picking up a few kills, they're finally starting to push Warpath back.
Once again on the payload is Grok, as per usual. Stolzey, the barrack on the side of Warpath Gaming, comes around from behind. Rude pops. Also, is that a Tempest that's come out? No, they appear to be mounted.
Oh.
So I'm not quite sure what was going on there. Possibly a visual bug, because they do appear to be walking and phasing through the mount at the same time, but Bioshi back to support the team. Smidgen coming in from behind, looking for a flank onto somebody. Maybe sEntryyy, not going to find it as sEntryyy hits a huge damaging shot straight onto them, jumping up into the path of sEntryy's fire. So I think they're aiming at Kyle there.
And sEntryyy has been putting in work so far, but Ronin starting to push forward because of the picks that sEntryy's provided. Yeah, and gets Kyle as well. Stolzey here, going to drop Dome Shield, waiting for Smidgen to come in and try and help. 29 seconds left for the payload to be pushed in. And actually, it looks like Ronin's going to back up. They're going to be regrouping, waiting for Shindu to come back into the fight. Don't want to risk anything just yet, but sEntryyy needs to be careful. Smidgen from the back line, going to freeze her out, and that's a big pick for Warpath.
Just as that is happening, doesupz goes up in the air, pops a Cursed Arm, manages to net a kill of their own onto Aeido, as well as Smidgen picking up sEntryyy. Shindu and Bioshi, the only players of Ronin left in the payload now. Shindu has been dropped, Bioshi is there. Bioshi has to withstand this to keep the payload in overtime, but he's just dashed away, and with that dash, the defense has actually succeeded. And the siege engine does get destroyed, the payload not converted to give those extra points, and Warpath Gaming take not only a 400 credit bonus from that defense, but a single point back in their favor, making the score 2-1 in favor of Ronin.
That was such a close payload there. Honestly, sEntryyy doing work. I think sEntryy's honestly probably the reason we saw that point, the capture point originally go the way of Ronin, but then getting picked off there by Smidgen in the end. And Smidgen, I mean, he just does such a good job of just diving into the backline and keeping everyone distracted at all points in the game. It took so long for Ronin to kind of regroup and really start pushing the payload into the point.
Is indeed. Now looking at the burn cards being picked up quickly as the point has spawned on Igloo. Going to see Warpath immediately look out, try and get some control there before Ronin can actually get into good position to mount an offense. But we're seeing a lot of counter cards. The Resilience burn card, which counters or reduces the duration of crowd control by 100%, come out to counter this freeze Eevee build, including 1 onto Sentry. So no more easy assassination for you until that burn card has been wiped.
Oh, big chicken actually coming out there from Pip, and Suhhkyle and the rest of his team just trying to take control of this point. It's going to be Dome Shield and Ronin. They're dropping a lot of ultimates onto this, but here actually comes Stolzey trying to do what he can. Suhhkyle and doesupz have the upper hand, though, on the high point, but it doesn't look like they're going to be able to pick up too many kills. They will take out Bioshi, but Shindu responds with the kill onto Rude. And actually, now the team is going to isolate out Shindu on the side, and one at a time, they fall. Freeze comes Ice Block, and Smidgen picks up Aeido, and now it looks like Warpath are going to be able to capture this point here. They've got everyone on Ronin pushed back, and it's already at 85.
With the respawns coming through a little bit late there, being quite staggered as well. There's no easy way for Ronin to make it back onto the capture point. They will elect to defend for this, trying to net that 1 extra point and the 400 credit bonus, which comes from a successful defense once again. But Warpath Gaming are having none of it. We can immediately see doesupz and Androxus up on the high ground. Kyle trying to pressure the high ground as well, looking to take this advantage through the main clifftop choke point. And Bioshi, blazen, Aeido, Shindu all up top there, being forced out by these pip shops arcing over the clifftop.
sEntryyy trying to put in some pot shots from the side there, sitting up at the point. But actually, Smidgen, once again, just look at him, just keeping sEntryyy in his own base. It's actually going to be Bioshi trying to help out sEntryyy so this Canessa can get some shots off, but it's not going to be enough. Smidgen is going to reset and actually walks into the turret, hidden in the bushes. So unfortunate for Smidgen.
Oh, that's a very, very useful pickup kill there, as the blink freeze assassination attempt coming from Eevee could potentially actually make the difference between a successful payload defense and a successful payload push at this early stage. But there are 2 minutes left on the clock. Look where the payload is. It's almost reached the gate choke point, which is the last point of contest for the conversion point that Ronin actually have to defend this. So they're going to set up once again a turret going into the long grass there for Shindu, hidden from sight until it looks to start firing. sEntryyy going to be looking down the long line of sight, looking out from the base on the left-hand side, waiting, spots out Smidgen, hopefully, as Smidgen looks to potentially flank as they take out a couple of mines, and high ground control now in favor of Ronin once again.
Shindu and Aeido going to be throwing in some pot shots. Fernando here as well, played by Bioshi, but it looks like now's the time for Warpath. They're starting to surge forward. You can see it is blazen on this payload though here, and actually it doesn't really seem like too much of a coordinated effort coming out of Warpath. They looked like they were starting to get grouped, but it's a really good job coming out of the barrack on the other team to kind of just push them back. And Stolzey actually very deep, doing a good job distracting the team, but the rest of his squad actually can't even make it to the payload right now.
Oh, Smidgen with a fantastic blink-in save Stolzey's life. They're able to rocket boots using that bowling ball card to get out of safety and provide a quick shield. And Kyle picks up a kill onto Shindu. That's no barrack on the side of Ronin Gaming right now. So Bioshi, now the other one with the shield on their team, under fire, will manage to get back into base. Smidgen going to fall the Aeido though in that engagement, but the payload is once again being pushed. Round on the backside, there's a Grok versus Grok fight going on. Rude takes out blazen, and now there's no Grok on the side of Ronin either, which will make the payload push a little bit easier. Dome shield has been dropped, however.
Just Stolzey trying to push forward here. That's actually Rude trying to take out Bioshi. This Fernando just doing his best to delay this right now. 30 seconds. His team is spawning right now. You can see Ronin starting to pile in here. Gonna find doesupz, and it's actually blazen trying to hit the shot, but he can't connect, and actually he's gonna get turned on here. Smidgen doing work in the back line. Takes out Bioshi. Aeido takes out Suhhkyle in response, and the Tempest doesn't even get completed as Smidgen takes out the Grok. Rude coming in big with 2 kills, 14 seconds. Dome shield activated, and this is the last stand of Ronin.
Oh, but it's the last stand attempt, and the Canessa actually blocks it. Along comes your Fernando pick to help save. There's 5 seconds left. Canessa is eliminated, but there's still a Fernando on the payload. Now there's a Grok in the barrack there as well. And Warpath Gaming, their respawn distance, or the respawn point, is so far away from this payload that if they get wiped now, they're not going to be able to take it into overtime. And indeed, the defense is going to be successful.
This is going to be a hold. Stolzey here has come back, though. doesupz still managing to stay alive. Barricade versus barricade. 4 members there. It goes 3 seconds left on overtime, and the defense, it's going to be successful.
So basically a run back there of what we saw the previous point, but a much, much closer defense than Warpath had. I mean, The payload got right up to the conversion point there, and it was a last-ditch effort. You don't really want your Kinessa trying to block out or body block that payload. That's really a bad situation to be in, but as the respawns come through, and as the base of Ronin is in such close proximity to their conversion point, we're able to see your Fernando come back out again, hold down that point with the Immortal ultimate, and just make that defense successful.
And that was just a good job of, honestly, Ronin killing players at different times, honestly, which really staggered the spawns coming out. And you can see there just kind of piling in one at a time from Warpath trying to get control.
We noticed that quite a lot in some of yesterday's games. It's been dubbed the EU Conga, but there's a huge point fight breaking out on this capture point up at Waterfall this time. Ooh. First kill going to the side of Warpath Gaming. doesupz nets a kill there, and now Warpath Gaming pushing an advantage.
Smidgen's in the back, though, actually doing work, isolating out 2 members. There's Ice Storm trying to do some damage, not enough to confirm a kill, and Smidgen actually just pushing everyone back, allowing doesupz and Rude to clean up 2 quick kills, and it's Ronin in trouble here. Stolzey trying to find the last shot onto Blazen, looking for the hit, but it's actually going to be the barricade trying to juke out, and Blazen actually outplays Stolzey, but he will fall to Rude's rotation as well. Bioshi versus 3 here on the point, but Shindu's come back from base after falling at the start of this fight.
Rude does pop 10 best, but there are 2 members here, and Bioshi pops the Immortal. There will be no fatal damage applied to either members of Ronin whilst that ultimate is available, but Kyle knocks out Bioshi. Shindu the only one left. No, Aeido has respawned. They're coming back in, but there's nobody on the capture point. Smidgen with the high ground advantage, now being barraged by Aeido, is going to take some damage there, but retains control over this capture point, but Sentry's back. The snipes are coming through, and an excellent transporter heal there keeps them alive in this, or rather I said that, but Smidgen comes through on the backside and assassinates them with the Eevee.
Aeido here, actually, though, throwing in some pot shots, and there goes Tempest, but it's actually not able to connect on anyone. Blazen does take out doesupz, Aeido takes out Stolzey, and it seems like Ronin are starting to make their stand. The capture point, it's starting to get collapsed on here. Bioshi just doing a good job of pushing off Rude from this point right now, and you can see Aeido on the side as well, just trying to stop anyone from getting in here. Smidgen gonna have the high ground, but getting flanked by Shindu. Needs to be careful here. One more hit, but there's the blink away. Not enough damage. Smidgen somehow will escape, and the points are starting to stack up for Ronin.
The points are beginning to stack up, and as they do so, we're waiting for somebody on the side of Warpath to make a play. doesupz goes up into the air. I heard the accursed arm start to get procced. He was immediately shot down by Sentry. Another kill goes down. Kyle getting wiped out of there. This is kills going left and right, but mainly in favor of Ronin, and the capture point indeed will go in their favor as well.
Ronin finally have control here, and they've got all their members grouped up. They're going to start surging forward here, now onto 5 points. And this is the most competitive game I've seen in quite some time on Paladins. Both teams giving it their all right now. 2 minutes and 30 seconds to push this payload in. And Ronin, they're going to try and put themselves on match point here. Shindu, Bioshi, going to run in here. Just some pot shots for now as the payload's being pushed forward.
One thing that I want to point out is Sentry up on high ground with this Kinessa. Abel wants this barricade, goes down to start dishing out a lot of damage as long as they don't take a barrage from Kyle. But Smidgen comes around the backside, looks to assassinate Aeido, far away from the payload fight, which is going on all the while.
Got actually, Chicken was used to stop Smidgen, though, so maybe a slight win there. Ultimate for death. doesupz goes in deep as well, and this is just, once again, a distraction coming out of Warpath. You can see they've got 3 members on the payload, and it's going to be on to Ronin to regroup here. Their team is actually kind of getting distracted and running into the backline, trying to chase kills just to stop Smidgen from doing what she's doing, but, I mean, that's just leading into what Eevee's whole point is.
Exactly. Eevee acts not only as an assassin, but a fantastic and fantastically survivable assassin with having the blink and saw escapes available to you, as well as an ice block to immune all that damage. But Smidgen, once again, under a lot of fire, does manage to blink and saw away to safety. High ground control going this time back in favor of Ronin as Aeido up top drops a lot of shots down, assisted by Sentry on this Kinessa from a distance.
doesupz hits the shot, but he's going to be running into Bioshi here, who heals up for now, and it seems like Warpath, they're going to be starting to push this payload back. The grouping coming out from Ronin. Rude, actually, though, not even going to let them get close, and this is just such a good job from Warpath. We see this all the time, just pushing the team back. The 5-man grouping here coming out. Aeido has respawned, and you can see Sentry and the boys of Ronin going to be healing up with Grok, and they're making their move now.
It's a tricky spot for Warpath. They're not close enough to the spawn of Ronin to be able to spawn camp effectively, and whilst they have to push out, they have to be careful not to overextend, because a wipe here would push the payload all the way to the gates of their base, and then that would be a very, very dire situation. One more full grouping, and perhaps one more ultimate combination might be able to push it through, and Sentry netting a double kill there. Snipes connecting, hitting hard, and the payload is going to push through this clifftop choke point with ease.
This Kness has been putting in work so far. 35 seconds remaining. Smidgen here going to try and isolate out Shindu, but getting turned on. There's the ice block, but it's not going to be enough, and Aeido snipes out Smidgen here. Rude on the payload, just trying to distract for now. Has Ghost Walked activated, but this is just wasting a little bit of time. Still 20 seconds left as doesupz piles in as well, trying to get the reversal damage off. Stolzey actually snipes out Shindu, but Sentry, again, with the snipes, takes out Rude. Aeido as well from the high ground, eliminates doesupz, and it's Smidgen here trying to defend.
Last minute Tempest came out from blazen, eliminates one, but immune by Smidgen in the ice block there for just a second. There's nobody on the payload, there's nobody at the conversion point on the side of Warpath Gaming, and Ronin pushed the payload right through, taking it to match point leading 7, or rather Warpath, is that? No, Ronin leading 7 points.
That's
over,
Ronin. That's Ronin.
Warpath
Not what we expected coming into this here. All they need to do now is capture the point, and they're going to have the game. The burn card's starting to come out here into this next round, and it looks like we've got a lot of movement here. Some blast shields as well coming out from most everyone outside of Bioshi.
Defensive cards coming out on the side of Warpath Gaming, but there's 4 sets of aggression dealing,
Wow.
allowing these champions to have 25% increased damage. Those red cards you may see in your scoreboard right now, the hand holding an arrow, allows the players with those burn cards equipped to deal 25% increased damage on weapon attacks, and that's a significant difference from previous patches where we saw it only at 15%. Now it means that these players will be hitting incredibly hard, but a chicken comes out onto the flank attempt mounted by Ronin, and it's been completely reversed.
It's a 3 for 2 right now in favor of Ronin. They're trying to take out Stolzey, but he's actually hiding in between his barricade. Gonna rocket boots away. Bioshi can't close the gap in time. He is gonna find him here up into this cavern, but I mean, still sniped out, and now it's actually a couple members dead, losing their aggressing cards coming out of Ronin here, but they do have control of the point, and this is their all-in. That's why they went the aggressing. They want to have the damage. They want to be able to wipe. They want to be able to wipe Warpath and get control of this point and win game 1.
They need to as well. They will actually have to get this capture point enabled in order to win in one fell swoop. They could potentially gain an extra point off a defense here, but being 7 points out of 9 instead of 8, they'd have to win either 2 defenses or a defense and a capture point. Rather, it's a better opportunity for them to just take this point and win, and they're doing so with a dominant showing right now.
3 quick kills. There's the 4th. Double kill coming out of Bioshi, and now it's just Stolzey here trying to do his best. Doesn't matter. Triple kill coming out from Bioshi, and Ronin come up with a game 1 victory over Warpath.
Impressive play from the Fernando on the side of Ronin, and really an upset for me especially. We saw such a dominant performance out of Warpath last week, and yes, whilst we saw in the initial week of these qualifiers, Ronin really come out swinging, especially with some fantastic Drogo's play. I'm just not seeing that as much. I'm just not seeing the response from Warpath, really. I mean, they just got countered. The Knessa pick was able to go off crazy and just pick up kills left and right. And whilst the big damage numbers are on the side of Warpath Gaming, you got to remember that a lot of those damage numbers are coming from damage done to shields. You got a barricade on the side of Ronin, which has 4,000 extra health. You've got the Fernando shield as well, and Fernando's base health increased by 60% due to the card Evolve 4 that he was running there.
And I mean, just look at this. Androxus dropped 70,000 damage, but unfortunately, he couldn't really get any kills in the backline. It was just unfortunate that Smidgen and doesupz really couldn't provide the same thing they did in the previous games, right? Against Zenith Black. They did a really good job of distracting, but unfortunately, I think that was just really good grouping, honestly, coming out of Ronin. They did a good job of kind of waiting it out and then pushing forward as a team every single time.
And they expected the Eevee ambush. If you take a look at Eevee's damage score here, Eevee's score sitting at 1.6k score, 14 deaths, the highest on their team, tied with Kyle on Pip, and only 39k player damage, which is unusual for Eevee. In fact, the lowest across the board apart from Blazen on Grok on the side of Ronin there, which is sort of to be expected running that Healing Rain build instead of the Invigorate, the damage build. And that's quite shocking. What it shows to me is that Smidgen was going for these solo assassination attempts onto Knessa and was just spotted out too much. They were expected, they were trapped, they were suckered into these and almost baited into these engagements and just wiped out as a response, and something there needs to change. Otherwise, it's just going to be a repeat of game 1.
And that's exactly what we saw Smidgen do, right? Constantly trying to shut down Sentry, but unfortunately it just wasn't as successful as she would have liked. And honestly, a lot of times a really good job for the team of Ronin to rally around Sentry when she was getting isolated out by Smidgen and not able to kind of run rampant and do exactly what she did earlier on against Zenith Black.
But I think that doesn't quite also give enough credit to the side of Ronin, as they really did sniff out all these ambush attempts coming through. The very first capture point that we saw of the game, we saw sEntryyy set up in one of the caverns on the waterfall point, looking across the way, across the long way, sees players coming around topside on the little balcony there, looking to come around from their left and assassinate them, and aims down that corridor, waiting for somebody to set foot around the corner. As soon as they do, it was doesupz on Androxus who took the first hit there and was first blood of the game, I think, actually going to sEntryyy, and as a result it just seemed to really snowball out of control from there. Going into game 2, something's got to change on the side of Warpath Gaming, and I don't know whether it'd be, well, I'm thinking maybe switch the champions up, but you got to the Eevee's valuable. You got to have that assassination for Kinessa, because if Kinessa's run again, then you're in a lot of trouble. But also, you need something to deal with Fernando, because that's something we haven't really talked about yet. When Fernando gets up in your face, they're impossibly hard to deal with as a champion like Eevee. You got to remember that Eevee deals self damage to herself with her own weapon attacks. So if Fernando gets close, she's going to be killing herself whilst trying to take them down. And yes, she can escape, and yes, she can fly away, but potentially picking up Drogo's there instead, who can go up into the air, drop a salvo with Masterful onto Fernando, which deals % damage based on your target's maximum health, and that might be a little bit more effective at taking them out.
Do you think that should be, replace the Eevee or the Androxus? I mean, Androxus still drops 70,000 damage, but are those the two, champions we're looking at replacing for the Drogos potentially?
Well, it's difficult to say, because we have actually seen in a couple of games yesterday, and this took me completely by surprise. Your Barik remains pretty much a staple. Your Pip remains pretty much a staple, because Barik and Pip do what only Barik and Pip can do. One has a shield, one has the Evil Mojo ultimate and these fabulous AoE shots. Androxus, I wouldn't change a thing there, as the amount of damage is absolutely phenomenal coming out of them, and that's been really why they were able to hold out for so long. But we did actually see Grok swapped out in Europe for, I think it may have actually been Drogoz in the previous game, working very, very well. And you could argue that without that healing, they're at more of a risk. But, I mean, you've got plenty of time to heal out of combat if you just wipe all of your enemies constantly.
Well, that's going to be it for game 1, though, Vox. We're going to be getting into game here shortly and just a couple minutes away. Welcome back, everyone. We're getting into game 2 of Ronin taking on Warpath. Ronin coming in with a surprising upset in game 1, considering many people thought Warpath were going to run this event here in the week 3 of qualifiers. However, we do have a switch up coming out from Warpath, recognizing kind of that strength of Fernando. Smidgen now going to be dropping the Eevee. Vox, how do you feel about this?
I'm excited to see them dropping the Eevee. I mean, it just wasn't that effective last game, but the pick that they've swapped to is Fernando. So instead of potentially going for a different, they've decided that they just need more frontline, and I'm interested to see how it pays out. I mean, we saw plenty of backline damage coming out that previous game. That really wasn't an issue. So maybe more of a shield and more frontline for their team is going to help force fights into their favor instead of being bodied by this Fernando run by Bioshi in the previous game.
Smidgen already doing just that, trying to protect doesupz, but Aeido trying to chase him down, and that's going to be first blood on the Pip. Very nice play coming out from him. You can see Kinessa trying to throw in some pot shots on the side. Bioshi going to be isolated as well. Suhhhkyle doesn't even recognizing him around the corner, but Stolzey manages to finish off Bioshi, and now this looks like Warpath taking players out one at a time.
And Warpath are getting point control right now. They're starting to get up there. There's a barricade going up, but the pressure has to go on to sEntryyy right now. As if you're on this igloo point and you don't deal with the Kinessa. Kinessa has so many long, easy lines of sight onto this capture point. You're potentially going to be 1 or 2 shot by her if you're not paying attention. So we're going to see a Fernando go in deep, start to look for her, but sEntryy's been left alone once more as frontline starts to push in towards this capture point.
Already 75 points on the board for Warpath, and honestly, this looks like it could go their way. Bioshi surging forward here, trying to face off against Smidgen. There comes the barricade, but it's not going to be enough. Stolzey finishes off Bioshi. Blazen does find a return kill onto Smidgen, so both Fernandos down, but doesupz takes out Blazen. It's just back and forth, but it was Warpath in control of that capture point from the start there. First blood went their way, and so does the point.
The point being captured by Warpath Gaming puts them at a 2-point advantage over Ronin, a different, well, or rather the opposite of what happened in this initial game. Paylor's going to start pushing through towards this clifftop choke point, but I'd really attribute that kind of point victory just to, there was a lot of positioning, but not just that. Aeido jumps down, picks up a very early kill, jumping down off a ledge as this Pip, but puts himself in a very unfortunate position and gets picked up or traded out because of it. And I think that that play could have potentially lost them the point there, as your Pip able to get a lot of free damage off onto teammate or enemies who are grouped up is a very, very valuable champion to have in your pool. And if that Pip is dead or if that Pip is out of the issue, then you're losing so much damage onto these objective points.
And now you can see actually Warpath pushing forward, still trying to find the picks. Bioshi, though, is behind the team here, and he's going to jump onto the payload, stopping it for now. Going to find himself in facing off against Rude, and you can see actually sEntryyy and Aeido, and actually an accursed Arb coming out of doesupz, snipes away sEntryyy here, throws in a shot onto the payload as well, damaging both Bioshi and pushing him back here. Blazen trying to stop this, but the payload, I mean, it's still 140 seconds left, and Warpath, hey, they have full control.
Bioshi under a lot of fire here, 1 versus 5, actually 3 versus 5, but being hit by a ton of damage right now, stalling out the payload for one last moment, but sEntryyyy's the only player left. Shindu comes in for a respawn just in time to be able to contest it, and Blazen drops Tempest as well, looking to deal a lot of damage, but Smidgen pops their ultimate, not going to be brought down by Blazen, but they're in full retreat now. Warpath Gaming have been forced out, doesupz around on the side, looking potentially for a backdoor opportunity. If players do leave the payload, they've hopped up too soon and are going to be spotted out by Aeido here, forced back. Warpath Gaming all need to retreat right now and look to regroup. Otherwise, they're going to be, well, held back at this next choke point.
Oh, doesupz dies there too. That's really rough, honestly, coming out for Warpath Gaming, because now their deaths are staggered. You're going to see Smidgen has already respawned, but his entire team is waiting for him, and they need to wait, you know, an extra 10 seconds because doesupz went aggressive there and got picked off because of it. 45 seconds left for this payload to be pushed in here, and the defense could be successful, but look at this. Sneaky into the back of the base. It's actually Warpath.
But there are players waiting for them. Smidgen going to be hit by mines, going to be hit by a Canessa shot. Whilst they're going up top, there's an accursed arm being dropped, though. doesupz on the offensive is not going to find anything with it. All the members of Ronin here looking to defend. Bioshi pops their own ultimate. There's a chicken out onto Warpath Gaming as well, and all of Warpath are slowly being forced back. There are kills coming out for Warpath at the same time, though. Kyle's going to net a kill onto Shindu as well. Aeido picks up a response kill, picks up a kill beforehand, and Bioshi left alone to defend this payload. 1 versus 4. The respawns are coming through. It's going to be a close one. Blazen now able to ghost walk and immune all this damage. There's 5 seconds left on the timer. If they don't get back and take this to overtime, it's all over for Warpath Gaming.
This is it. This is going to be it. Rude actually comes in with Tempest, though, trying to find Shindu, but the barricade doing work. Does get the last hit. It is in overtime. doesupz is above here as well. Stolzey piling in, but oh man, Warpath, it's going to be very hard. There comes the barricade, and honestly, it looks like Ronin should be able to hold, but Blazen comes up with the 2-man kill there, and it's going to happen. The defense, it's going to be confirmed there, and 400 credits for that defense.
400 credits now going to the side of Ronin for that successful defense. Taking a look at the burn cards coming out on the side of Warpath Gaming. First of all, 3 aggressions, a lot of damage coming out there. There's 1 record being picked up by Shindu, 1 picked up by Blazen as well. Blazen running the Invigorate build, it's a more viable pickup on them than it would be if they're running a Healing Rain build, as they do have a higher damage output. Also, notably on Blazen, 1 Cauterize card, which reduces any enemy hit by your weapon attacks, including, I think, the effects of Chain Lightning, has their healing reduced by 100%. Comparatively on the side of Ronin, they just seem to have fewer burn cards, and I think that's due not to the fact that they didn't get those 400 credits, but because they didn't get as many kills to them as they were being bodied during all of that defense.
I mean, you can see the kill streaks coming out, honestly, for Ronin there. 6, 1, 8, 3, 3, so getting the better end of that, and now the point is going to be under contention here from both teams. First blood actually going to Root. Suhhhkyle actually takes out Blazen as well. That's 2 big kills very early on. doesupz here actually forced back, just going to reset himself, and Bioshi, I mean, he's getting targeted out by Smidgen, and he's got 4 players around him trying to stay alive, is going to be able to mount, and actually just trying to distract, but I mean, that's 4 kills now, 5, and that's going to be a wipe.
That's a long respawn for those members, just wiped right at the end there, and the respawns are staggered. You can see players on the side of Warpath starting to, on the side of Ronin, sorry, starting to push up as Warpath just holds down that capture point. And look at the zoning shots coming out from Suhhhkyle at the moment, firing down in an arc, down into this little choke point there, looking to hit people and knock them off their mounts and just delay their progress towards the capture point. Not going to put themselves in danger, does end up retreating. The danger comes through, and Stolzey on the capture point pops the ultimate just to stay alive. Bioshi on there as well with the ultimate. It's going to immune all of that damage coming through, and this could actually be turned back in favor of Ronin.
It's not going to happen. Smidgen comes in, cleans up with the help of Stolzey as well. Bioshi, the last one on the point. You can see sEntryyy on the side there on that Canessa trying to throw in some shots, but it's not going to be enough. And the capture point going to go the way of Warpath. 4 points for them here, and they're going to start to try and push this in. The first 2 payloads were successfully defended, however. We'll see if that's going to happen on the 3rd one as well.
It's going to be tricky. And now this Kinessa pick does work on defense from a distance, but as soon as Fernando gets up into your base, you're in a lot of trouble there. And as soon as that Kinessa is off the high ground, dropping these almost zoning or very high damage shots onto the enemy team, then the payload pushes through quite easily. And that's one thing which I'm noticing about this Kinessa. It works well when Ronin are in control of the capture point and when they're in control of the space around them. But as soon as that Kinessa is under fire and as soon as that Kinessa is being squeezed a bit, then actually the point control tends to go back in favor of Warpath Gaming, and it just snowballs from there.
doesupz comes up with the Curse that Arnhem and finds 2 kills. Bioshi does find a return onto Stolzey, but I mean, this is just a distraction. Look at this. I mean, Rude is just pushing this payload in. No one's even close to this. Triple kill coming out of doesupz, and blazen gonna be the last stand for him. He's gonna activate Tempest as Stolzey comes in as well with the Dome Shield, but Rude comes up with the double. I don't see how this defense is gonna be able to happen. 145, or excuse me, a minute and 45 seconds still left.
It was stalled out there for a second by the Dome Shield, by that barricade, but as soon as that's down, the damage just drops in from all 5 members of Warpath, and they'll just push that payload to completion, leading 6 points to 1 over Ronin right now. A complete turn on the previous game, and really this comes down to potentially, I think, the Kinessa pick. It's just not doing the work that we saw previously, and running this...
Is this because of Smidgen's Fernando? Like, is he doing it? Because before we saw Smidgen completely try and isolate out, you know, sEntryyy on that Kinessa pick. However, he wasn't too successful. Now he's actually not even doing that. Have they switched that up here? Is that what we're seeing out of Warpath?
That appears to be the difference for me, rather than an Eevee which you can potentially turn the tables on, because when their ice block is down, when their escapes are down, if they've especially used them to engage, they are a very squishy champion. When a Fernando dives into your backline, especially one that can mount up in under a second, gains a 700 damage shield every time they mount, that's difficult to get out of your face.
And actually, side here, the point trying to be taken. Aeido in a little bit of trouble as Smidgen just going to take him out one at a time. That's, despite being tanky, Fernando can assassinate people as well. And now we do see Stolzey and the rest of Warpath push forward onto this point. Blazen going to have to ghost walk away for now. Smidgen putting in work, and Suhhhkyle takes out sEntryyy, and now one at a time, Ronin, they're falling. This is just like the last capture point we saw.
The full grouping from Warpath Gaming comes out. Oh no, doesupz with an accursed arm straight into that little choke point there. Doesn't actually net a kill from it, but all members of Ronin being brought very low. Blazen forced to ghost walk away is going to be ticked by maybe a rifle shot. No, Smidgen and the flamethrower getting credit for that kill. Shindu is in a lot of trouble as well. The grouping is starting to come back out from Ronin, but it's not good enough. They're being wiped out one by one. The full stagger is coming through, and this game could potentially end off this payload push.
What does Ronin need to do right now? Because this is all 3 capture points in a row. They've just been getting picked off one at a time. Are they not grouping enough?
It doesn't feel like they're not grouping enough. It feels like they're getting caught out. Rather than spotting the ambushes, or even if they are spotting the ambushes, they just don't have an answer for this Fernando coming in, because when Fernando wants to go somewhere, there's nobody that can stop him. You have to back off, you have to make distance, you have to chip him down piece by piece, because if you stay within range, that flamethrower is just going to melt you down. You're going to be finished off by the burst damage from charge.
You can see 17 kill streak on Grok, 14 on Smidgen's Fernando right now. And Warpath, they're doing a lot. It's going to be very hard for Ronin to come back into the second game. Smidgen and Suhhhkyle, they're going to back off for now. Bioshi actually trying to take out Smidgen, does manage to do so, and now Ronin, they're holding for now. Rude going to push the payload a little bit more forward and regroup with his team as Bioshi's gone a little bit too deep and does get sniped out by doesupz. This sEntryyyy's play has been phenomenal so far.
Now, what I really like about that initial push as a barrage of shots comes down to the payload and the defenders from the high ground there is exactly what happened with that high ground control. You saw Smidgen with allies get up onto the high ground immediately, not waiting for the payload to come anywhere near them. They know that if this high ground control is in favor on those cliff tops of the defenders, then that's a great vantage point to drop pip shots down, to put up a barricade there to protect the team. And as a result, when there's a Fernando up there, they can sort of pop their shield up, walk towards the enemy whilst teammates behind them are firing all the while. Comparatively, you got a stationary barrack on the other team as there's a Fernando nowhere near them. And I mean, the high ground control just gets ripped away from Ronin.
Warpath are starting to be aggressive here, though. They've got the Dome Shield on the high ground. sEntryyy actually does snipe out doesupz. That's a big kill for Ronin. And sEntryyy left untouched here on the other side of the ridge. Suhhhkyle recognized that. Gonna actually hit him with the Evil Mojo. That's just for the CC. Trying to keep him distracted. And you can see Warpath, they want to win game 2. They're strongly pushing forward. There goes the barricade coming out of blazen. And blazen actually does fall to Rude. Dome Shield activated for now. Bioshi trying to push Stolzey off. 59 seconds still remaining. Smidgen at the top. Warpath, keeping sEntryyy locked in her own base. Root is here as well, takes out Shindu as doesupz takes out Aeido, and now this should be Warpath pushing in the payload.
Well, you say that, but blazen, with what could be a clutch Tempest, but it's immune. Smidgen popping the immortal ultimate right at the end there, keeping everybody in. Aeido respawns, comes through, stops the payload for a second, but is evaporated. Shindu now only has a barricade to protect him. They're going to fall very quickly. Bioshi doesn't return here. Bioshi pops the immortal, just keeping Shindu alive for a second. And with the respawn from sEntryyy, this could go either way. The respawns are coming through rapidly on the side of Ronin, and they keep coming one by one, but they're staggered. And Bioshi, really the only player who's able to sit and defend for any length of time on this payload, eliminated. The payload pushes to completion, is converted, and Warpath Gaming take it back. They take game 2 in this best of 3 set.
We're going to a game 3. That was so close too. It didn't, even though that was, you know, pretty one-sided in the end. It was 9-1 in points. It didn't really feel like it was a 9-1. It felt much closer than that, Vox.
I would agree with you there. The point fights felt really, really contested, but I'm ecstatic to see how well Warpath Gaming adapted to really what didn't work last game. Kind of thought about it, go, okay, well, more frontline, we'll drop the Fernando in, and just played so much better than they had done in the previous game. Taking a look at the scoreboard here, we're going to break down some of these stats for you, and one thing that I'm immediately shocked to see is look at the damage number on Smidgen. Smidgen is playing Fernando. That's a tank. That's a character who's orientated or built around their shield. They're running the Evolve card as a specialty card, not even the damage specialty card. And 41,000, actually dealing out more damage than 3 members on the side of Ronin, and that's really impressive.
Bottom on his team, but still doing so much work. And, you know, that just seemed to be the switch up that Warpath needed in that second game. They kind of let Kinessa get her shots out for the most part, and it was Kyle who isolated her every once in a while, but for the most part, they let the Kinessa fire the shots, and they just focused on being a little bit more bruiser oriented, on that front line.
Absolutely. Now, you can't say that the Kinessa pick didn't work out, because look at that. Top damage on their team, 51,000, 16 eliminations, highest on their team, 3 solo kills, highest on their team, lowest deaths on their team. But they're not the front line, or at least the more teamfight-orientated champion, which they perhaps needed to be able to counter the Fernando. Because when you're playing with a Kinessa, you're effectively playing 4 versus 5. If you can immune the Kinessa's shots, thanks to some of the shields that you're able to put up from Fernando, or the barricade from Barak, then Kinessa's just really not having an impact. You're fighting a 5 versus 4 in your favor as the other team, and then you can just go and pick up the Kinessa afterwards, or if you take them out at the beginning of the fight, then it's a complete non-issue. In response, I'd like to see Ronin drop the Kinessa. Have you got any champions in mind, Adonis, which you'd like to see perhaps picked up instead?
I mean, you could go the Drogoss, right? We haven't seen it so far today from the games we've been following, but a really good job of controlling team fights. Has a lot of damages. You know, Kinessa can't always guarantee that damage, even though she did a lot. You know, it wasn't able to be effective damage we saw for the most part.
Right, when it really came down to it, those clutch stalls out when the payload was right next to the conversion point, you want an extra body on the payload. You want a ton of blast damage. You don't need this long distance single target damage sniper. And really, with point fights and the payload pushes going to that extent, I want to see either Drogoz or Cassie personally come out of sEntryyy, or maybe Drogoz on Blazen, as we've seen them being very, very successful with that.
Why would you like to see Cassie come out?
So Cassie's an interesting one. Cassie has a lot of the range which Kinessa has. Yes, while she has projectile-based shots, and they are more difficult to hit in that respect, she can dish out long extended periods or long extended bursts of damage over range, but also she has the knockback potential from the Megaton card, which Drogoz does, but she also has her disengage card available to her. And one thing that we notice is when Fernando gets up on the payload and sticks at it, or when Fernando gets up into your backline, there's no getting him away from you. Potentially the double knockback of a Megaton card and the disengage shot from Cassie might be enough to keep Fernando at range for long enough that they're able to be burst down.
All right, Vox, final thoughts before we go to a break and get into the game 3.
Definitely something needs to be changed up with the Kinessa, but really that's it for me. I mean, they've taken 1 game each so far, and well, when it comes down to it, they're going to have a second chance at this, as the loser of this game will go into the last game of the losers bracket, then come back into the finals if they win that. So really, rather than treating this as the be-all, end-all, it's an adaptation point for them. It's the game which they have the opportunity to try something different and then learn from it, and that's what's great about this double elimination format.
Well, that's going to be it from me and you for now. We'll be back in a few minutes with the final game between Warpath Gaming and Ronin.
Champions of the Realm, welcome back to this final game, this game 3 in this best of 3 set. Warpath face off against Ronin. The score is currently 1-1. My name is Vox, and I'm joined here today by Hi-Rez Adonis. Adonis, how are you doing? Are you excited by this game to come?
I'm so excited. We have no switch-ups in the Champions, even though you kind of thought that maybe the Cassie should come in there, or potentially the Drogoz to play, but I mean, these games have been so close. Despite that second game going 9-1, every single point was contended, right? Every single payload push was under contention. It was not a clean victory for Warpath Gaming, and Ronin, they're going to do their best here to try and make it to the finals, guaranteed, without having to go through the losers bracket.
Warpath Gaming, though, coming up hot behind Ronin, looking for a flank and looking for an assassination attempt, maybe. But Sentry on this Kinessa going up onto the high ground balcony, going to be picked off by Smidgen here if they're not careful. Going to transport her away, having to be very, very careful. And Smidgen's just going to continue to chase, and this is going to be the story of Sentry versus Smidgen this entire game. Now in a lot of trouble, but the point control is still in favor of Ronin right now.
Oh, Sentry actually in a lot of trouble. First blood does go to Kyle, sniping out Aeido, but that barricade doing work. A really good job from Sentry to kite in between it. And now Smidgen's getting turned on, and he does fall thanks to Shindu. But in the meantime, the backline, it's falling apart. Blazen drops to doesupz, and now the point seems to be in control of Warpath Gaming as they're trying to find these kills one at a time. There goes Bioshi, and Warpath, they're going to wipe 4. Sentry, the first to fall. She's going to be hanging around here on this Kinessa, but can't get in. Going to have to wait for her team.
I mean, I just want to point out, that was phenomenal work from Ronin right there. Sentry didn't actually die in that team fight despite having no health. What we saw is them juking in and out of the barricade, somehow avoiding that tick damage from Fernando's
I have
flames.
no idea how that happened. That was so small.
At one point, they managed to get the transporter off, and they have a card in there which heals them for 40% of their maximum health when they throw the transporter, but finally down is Sentry, and that's going to be getting back on this capture point very, very difficult. As Bioshi does go in there, they hold the capture point for just a moment, but 96 points in favor of Warpath Gaming. It's going to go to them as the kills come through. doesupz getting a double kill right at the end there.
That was so close. You saw 86 the side of Ronin. Once again, I mean, this set continues to impress, and now 2 minutes, 50 seconds for Warpath Gaming to push this payload in, and look at this. They're playing it sneaky right now. 3 members hanging around this left-hand side. They're going to get the high ground for now and allow Rude to push in the payload by himself, and they're actually already going aggressive, just forcing Shindu back. They're isolating him out from the rest of his team, and he does get picked up by doesupz. A really nice play coming out from Warpath Gaming, and now actually Blazen comes in behind them, but he's alone. Has to ghost walk away. He should be fine, however.
Now, I'd argue that Stolzey did pop a dome shield at the back of that team fight. A bit of a questionable play there, but you had Sentry on that Kinessa dropping high damage shots onto all of them, and one more shot would have actually killed, I think, a teammate. So rather than let anybody die, they're going to drop the dome shield, look to deal some damage now, regain some of that ultimate charge for perhaps the final push coming up, or save it for the point. But doesupz now under a lot of fire from Aeido up on the top side. Bioshi looking to force this defense out, and this defense is being successful. Oh, Rude popping Tempest, gets shut down immediately. Great work from the side of Ronin to stall his payload out completely.
That was so unfortunate for Rude. Pops his Tempest and then just immediately gets turned on by 3 players. Can't get it off, and now that ultimate's going to be down. Dome shield should be down as well from the barracks, so it's going to be Warpath. They're going to have a time. They're going to have to regroup here, because if Ronin managed to hold this, that's going to be 400 credits in their favor going into that second round. With all those burn cards, it could get deadly. Shindu here, he's on the payload, starting to push it back. Blazen has the high ground for now, but Rude pushing forward, starting to make his move with the rest of his team.
Stolzey, for some reason, setting up doesn't notice Blazen. This turret should be going down shortly, but no, it's got enough health to remain up and active. Going to see Sentry look to take that down in just a moment if they don't have more important targets to prioritize. That turret all the while just dishing out damage. Aeido finally turning their sights to it, but on the high ground, doesupz is coming around the corner, knocked away by a snipe from Sentry, and this is the control which Kinessa can exhibit in the payload element of capture and payload. But there's a 3-man grouping going into the back of the base. They're looking for Sentry once again. Stolzey goes up into the back line, pops the barricade down, but it's 1 versus 2. He's going to have difficulty picking up a kill at all there.
Smidgen all alone as well. Stolzey hanging around. They're both trying to stay alive, but Bioshi takes out Stolzey, and Sentry just hitting these snipes from across the map. You can see this Kinessa pick doing work as doesupz gets sniped out as well. Actually, the kill happens as his weapon is still firing, and now it's going to be a Ronin hold more than likely. 30 seconds remaining, and 3 players just fell, and the deaths are staggered.
There is this one last chance for Warpath Gaming to group up, get back on the payload. In order to do so, they can't afford to take poke one by one or filter in one by one. You can see that Kyle is getting ready to flank onto the payload as Aeido begins to barrage up top from that high ground. doesupz goes up to look to flank and looks to push him out. And Rude comes around from the backside. They're going to take this one into overtime, but how long is it going to last? It's going to depend on ultimate combinations ultimately as the winner, as to see who wins this fight.
I mean, Aeido being sieged in the backline. Suhhkyle does manage to take him out. Smidgen does return a kill. Overtime, it's looking strong right now, but I mean, Rude and Smidgen, they're trying to stay alive, both very low. The shield coming up from Smidgen is good for now, but blazen takes out Rude here. Now it's a 2-on-2 with Kinessa still in the back line, putting in these pot shots. Smidgen just trying to stay alive. Look at how low he is, and it's going to be the Fernando as well. But honestly, this has been a lot of time wasted, and most of the deaths that happened earlier, we do see Warpath starting to funnel back into this fight.
Warpath Gaming getting chipped away one by one. Smidgen, the only one left. Rude coming in for some support. Far away, isn't actually going to make it back in time, is going to elect to retreat and give this one up. The defense is successful for the side of Ronin, and phenomenal work, especially from sEntryyy during that defense. I mentioned earlier that I didn't think the Kinessa pick was working that well. I want to clarify on that a little bit. I want to sort of eat my words on that. I think the Kinessa pick doesn't work as well during capture point fights, but on payload attack and defense, it's unparalleled due to the long lines of sight that you have.
Is that really worth the risk of running the Kinessa though, right? If you're
Right.
losing all the capture points, right, you're going to get whittled down slowly. And that's what happened, I think, in game one, or excuse me, the last game in game two, where yeah, the games were competitive, a lot of that because of the Kinessa. However, they just Ronin couldn't gain control of those points because she kept getting, kind of blocked out by Smidgen, and we saw that in the last point as well.
Exactly, but now with a full 3 burn card advantage for the entire team of Ronin, things might go differently. They have to be careful of flanks, they have to be careful of assassinations, and they're going to get pincered in here. Shots coming through from Pit, but Smidgen goes up for a backline assassination attempt, actually decides to back off, turning their sights onto blazen as well. Rude goes into Ghostwalk, blazen also in Ghostwalk, being brought very low, but it's a complete slugfest here. There are shots coming out either way, but no kills yet. doesupz netting the first kill this engagement, goes into a Cursed Arm, drops the shots, but Bioshi pops a shield, and that's going to immune all the damage.
And now Bioshi and the rest of his team, they're kind of funneling into this little house hut there. Suhhkyle trying to throw in shots from above as the high ground, but it's Aeido isolated out by doesupz and the rest of Warpath. Now the play starting to come in. There goes Dome Shield, and here actually comes a lot of damage from both squads. Everyone
and here's
very
blazen on the
low.
backside though. blazen picks up one. Bioshi picks up another kill. Is blazen going to get the third? Smidgen left alive. Rude actually picks up blazen there. doesupz getting credit for that kill, and sEntryyy has returned. But 2 versus 3, it's not going to go in sEntryy's favor as they quickly have to escape from Smidgen, this Fernando pick that's just chasing them down.
It's a 1-on-1 right now, though. Grok versus Fernando. Here comes Aeido trying to finish off Rude, and there it is. 73 points. Smidgen, the only member of Warpath here hanging around, and he needs to get on this point now if he's going to do it. There he goes, drops the shield. Stolzey coming in. Suhhkyle as well. The funnel's starting to happen, and this needs to be Ronin. They need to pick up these kills now, and there's the first one onto Stolzey. Suhhkyle on the point as well, and there it is. It's going to be Ronin finding this capture point.
Evil Mojo. Kyle popped Evil Mojo right at the end, but he threw it straight into a barricade. I think he was trying to arc it over the top of it, but it just clipped the top corner, and by doing so, there's no pip ultimate for that capture point. We saw that Smidgen fell, and the capture point went in favor of Ronin, now leading 3 points to 2 over Warpath Gaming. If this defense is successful, it'll be a complete repeat of game 1. It'll even things up. But if the snipes from sEntryyy are good, and they can keep the ball rolling, they can keep this payload rolling, and take this high ground advantage, then the defense might be way more difficult than we expect.
Stolzey here on the point, on the payload, has dropped his shield heal, but getting surrounded. Rude's here as well, and once again, Suhhkyle just throwing in these arced AoE shots from above. Aeido trying to force the team off, and here comes doesupz here, just trying to isolate out. No, he's just going to reset, and now it's just a lot of poke, but no team really full committing on an individual player right now.
But check out where the payload is. blazen escorted it almost all the way through this clifftop choke point very successfully, as the rest of the team was distracted on the high ground. Has been spotted out now, and Ronin are going to be forced back. Everybody's low on either team, and kills are going to be traded either way. Bioshi can actually land something onto Smidgen. He can pick up a kill here. Mounting up, he's going to elect to chase, but when you mount up on either Fernando, there's going to be a shield coming out there, making it very difficult to chase down a kill. But Bioshi picks up doesupz as the snipe from sEntryyy connects, and the payload's going to start pushing through again. Once again, Smidgen back again to defend, but with no team to support them, how long are they going to last?
I mean, Smidgen's just trying to buy as much time as he can right now. Here comes Stolzey and Rude as well, so they have the triple front line coming out, but there goes the Dome Shield, and Tempest is activated. But I mean, the Dome Shield just immuning almost all of that damage.
And the Dome Shield wasn't just the only thing immuning that damage, it was the Immortal that came out of Bioshi there. That ultimate allowing no player within a close proximity of them on their team to go under 1500 damage.
Looks like we had a
health.
little bit of a problem there, but I think we're back into the game right now, guys, and the payload's starting to push forward. Blazen takes out Smidgen, Suhhkyle takes out Shindu in response, and now Ronin starting to push forward. doesupz just trying to retreat, trying to get away. A Cursed Arm is not ready for him, trying to find the snipe, and he does it, but it is Rude who finishes off Blazen. Bioshi the only one in here. You can see sEntryyy throwing in these long-range shots, able to take out Rude.
Oh, the damage. Bioshi able to go in there, provide the frontline effects, and sEntryyy just knocking players out one by one, but the kills connect in this time for Warpath Gaming. And Ronin...
All right, guys, welcome back once again. Sorry for the delay there, but it is Ronin trying to push this payload in. 18 seconds on, then there comes Tempest from Blazen, trying to isolate out a player, and he does take out Suhhkyle with the help of Shindu, but Shindu falls immediately to doesupz as well. Still 10 seconds for Ronin to push this payload in.
Oh, and the kills are actually coming through for Warpath right here. Bioshi, the only player left in this payload. sEntryyyy's around, but you don't want to stick your Kinessa on the payload, and it looks like they're going to actually elect to run away as Bioshi activates charge there. Leaps away, or rather dashes away from the payload, doesn't manage to take it into overtime, but with sEntryyy beginning to retreat, I think the consensus there is that we're going to give it up. We don't have respawns coming through in time, and instead, let's just regroup and look for the next capture point. The points are 3-3. It's an even game from here on out. Next capture point and next payload conversion could potentially put somebody at not match point, but set point for this one. Let's take a look at the burn cards real quick.
You can see blast shields coming out for all. A couple of Gressings actually coming out for Warpath Gaming. One onto the Rude's Grok. We've got one onto Kyle's Pip, and then finally one onto doesupz Androxus. And Androxus on a 4-kill streak. We've seen doesupz do work, honestly, this entire set, getting a lot of solo kills and isolating out a lot of players.
Oh, unbelievably so. And when that Androxus goes up into the air, drops the Cursed Arm over your barricade, you are in a lot of trouble if you don't have a Dome Shield or an Immortal Ultimate. But Smidgen diving deep, going onto the point. Warpath Gaming do not want to be locked out of this one as they have been on the previous capture point. The ultimates are coming out for either team, though the Dome Shield went down for Stolzey. Now there's a Tempest, but the Immortal activated on both teams. There's going to be no deaths here, but Warpath are going to come out on top. They pick up one kill. doesupz gets a double kill, but the Dome Shield goes down for Shindu. Shindu wiped out. Bioshi going to fall as well. doesupz gets a triple kill in that engagement, and now Warpath Gaming will take control of this capture point.
It's going to be very hard for anyone onto Ronin to get close here. You can already see Warpath doing exactly what they want to do. They're waiting for the spawns to come through. You can see sEntryyy and Aeido coming in, but there's no way this is going to happen, right? The points are starting to come in, and already they're being stopped far away from the capture point.
sEntryyy also very, very low, and once again we're going to see the disadvantage of this Kinessa pick when you're being forced back, when you're being zoned out. Kinessa is often more a hindrance than a help. Bioshi is up on the capture point though, on the side of Ronin, contesting for a second. Chicken
coming out from Kyle, finding two people succeed there, and 2 quick kills. Aeido gonna come up with their turn, and sEntryyy actually managed to snipe out Kyle as well, and this Kinessa starting to find pot shots, takes out Stolzey as well. Rude manages to lock down Aeido, but sEntryyy doing work right now for Ronin, trying to lock down Rude as well, but the box is actually blocking the shots. Bioshi managing to stay alive, getting the shield off, but from behind, Rude locks him down, and there it is, a double kill coming out for Rude. The point still under contention, 82-65 in points, and Tempest is big, finding one.
Blazen forced him to Ghostwalk immediately. The respawns have all come through from Warpath, but so have the kills. Ronin have been knocked out. The Siege Engine will go in favor of Warpath Gaming, leading them 5 points to 3 currently, and the payload is going to start to push through. And what a phenomenal point capture point display we said. And once again, sEntryyy continuing to exceed expectations. Coming round the backside, completely unexpected, through actually Warpath Gaming's spawn point, knocking out players where they from behind as they actually leave that flank completely open. But ultimately, when you've got a Kinessa and a Fernando versus a Grok and a Fernando in a direct close quarters point fight, the Grok and the Fernando are going to come up on top, and that's just what Warpath Gaming did.
And now you can see Warpath, they've got the high ground trying to match up. It's barricade versus barricade. doesupz going into Cursed Arm, trying to snipe out Aeido, but it's not enough damage. Aeido barely going to be able to reset, and actually picks off Kyle as he falls back from that fight. Payload starting to push forward, and you can see the kills starting to pile up for Warpath. But sEntryyy, this is what he needs to do. Finds one snipe onto Stolzey, still throwing in those shots, trying to lock down Rude, but that's going to be a Ghost Walk just in time. And sEntryyy just off the mark, can't find the hit. However, Warpath is pushed back away from the payload for now.
I want to talk about where sEntryyyy's standing, because I didn't even know that you could get there. That's phenomenal. They're pretty much walking on air right now, standing on the very, very ledgiest of ledges up on this little balcony in their base, allowing them to actually shoot around the corner, but providing them with a fantastic escape opportunity using Transporter if necessary. Difficult to flank, but Warpath Gaming looking to push them out as they start to go up onto this high ground, going to try and nick some high ground control back here off of Ronin.
Smidgen here on the front line, trying to take out Shindu. There's the barricade dropped, and actually Dome Shield coming into play from Stolzey. sEntryyy once again snipes out doesupz. Can't get anything rolling for the Androxus. Bioshi here getting targeted out. 3 players surrounding him, but he will take the teleporter up to the high ground, and it looks like this payload's going to go in here if they can take out Bioshi. And yeah, I mean, just complete distraction coming out from Warpath. You could see sEntryyy being kind of just kept busy by Suhhkyle's pip there, and he wasn't able to find those shots, even though the players of Warpath were low, and now it's trouble for Ronin.
This capture point could be the one. In fact, it is the one for all the marbles for the side of Warpath Gaming. If they take these 2 points and if they take this capture point lead, they will advance directly into the upcoming finals, and Ronin will be demoted to the losers bracket, forced to fight their way back up again. So not completely knocked out yet, but Ronin have demonstrated to be very, very good. They've taken a single game off Warpath so far. It's been 1-1, and they could take the next few capture points and run it back completely to take the win themselves. It all depends on how this fight goes.
Capture point here. Neither team wants to be the first onto it. And actually a loop around from Stolzey here. You can see Suhhkyle on the front line, and there goes
Oh,
Mojo.
the chicken! The ult combination is huge!
And now Bioshi, he's being isolated out as well. Stolzey finds him. That's 3 quick kills. This could be it, honestly. Only 2 players left alive for Ronin to try and defend this capture point right now. sEntryyy being kept busy by doesupz, who does find the kill. Smidgen forcing out blazen here as well, and he's going to find that kill. It's a full team wipe for Warpath.
That was fantastic counterplay. They knew, that Warpath Gaming knew that Ronin not actually funneling through the choke as expected, neither on the capture point as they were sticking in a position that gave them sight onto both, were coming around for a flank on the backside. And by doing so, they waited. They had chicken available, they had Tempest available, they pop Evil Mojo, they pop Tempest onto 5, or onto 4 rather, and decimate the backline. 3 members wiped out, there are a couple of kills going through, and there's no way back onto this for Ronin. I mean, the Dome Shield's gone down, the Immortals there keeping players alive, but look at it, it's 88 points in favor of Warpath Gaming right now, and Stolzey answers back with another Dome Shield. The Tempest comes out from blazen, but blazen's eliminated. Bioshi, the only player left on the point, and this one is going in a quick and clean victory to Warpath Gaming.
That was just really well played from them. You said at the start, right? The first fight there on that last round, just a beautiful combination of ultimates. Evil Mojo finds 3 players stuck in chicken, and then just the follow-up from the rest of the team. They got a full team wipe there in that first engagement. Didn't lose a single player, and then once again, that Dome Shield still saved. Wasn't even used in the first engagement. Still saved to guarantee the point after they had already put up 88 points onto the capture point, and Warpath going to advance to the finals. However, it is a double elimination tournament today here for week 3 of the qualifiers, so Ronin aren't completely out of it just yet.
Ronin are going ahead into game 13 on the brackets, not available yet on your screen, as we are going to do a quick scoreboard breakdown in just a moment, but that will be game 13, Ronin versus Zenith Black, the winner of which will advance back to face Warpath again. So depending on how well Ronin perform versus Zenith, we could see a complete run back of the game that we've just experienced. Now, taking a look at the scoreboard real quick, I just want to point out something. Now, we said that it was quite a clean victory for Warpath, I felt. Yes, they lost a point and they had to defend, and yes, there was a successful defense on the side of Ronin, but for the most point, look at the point scores. They're heavily, heavily in favor of Warpath Gaming right now. And while sEntryyy, yes, 40,000 damage, 5 solo kills, only 9 deaths, but only 15 eliminations. 1.6k score, just not having the same impact which they perhaps required that game, not spending time on the objective. Whilst yes, they're great on that attack and that defense, they're not quite as effective as they really needed to be in the capture point fights. And I think that's where the weakness of Knessa in competitive play really shines.
And we saw that multiple times, right? It was either Suhhkyle or Smidgen just completely bullying sEntryyy out of these engagements. And, you know, even though she could stay alive, you know, we saw it on, I believe it was one of the first or second capture points at Waterfall. You know, she did a good job of kiting around Barrack's barricade. The problem was that it was just a distraction, right? Because if sEntryy's not getting off this Knessa damage, there's no point in having her. If she has to run around and be defensive, then it's just a waste of a pick at that point.
I completely agree there, but that's not to say they didn't have some phenomenal plays. But phenomenal plays aside, alas, not enough to take that game. Warpath will take this 2-0 victory over Ronin, and as we've said, we'll be back in just a few minutes with Ronin versus Zenith Black. Don't forget to share this stream with your friends if you're enjoying it. This is going to be the second set of semifinals coming up for this Week 3 North American qualifying tournament for the Paladins Founders Tournament at DreamHack Summer 2016. We'll see you in just a minute.